Okay, so the FBI director, Christopher Wray, he seems to have confirmed, and he confirmed Wisconsin Representative Tom Tiffany. He confirmed this thing that, yeah, I guess our president is under criminal investigation by the U.S. Attorney David Weiss for Ukrainian bribes. But then he abruptly gas pedals. So at first he seems to confirm that yes, Joe Biden is under some sort of criminal investigation. But then Christopher Wray backpedals. You guys want to listen to the exchange? I know you do. I know you do. So here it is. Christopher Wray. He was at the House committee. He was testifying really before Congress and answering a bunch of questions. Here's Christopher Wray. Here we go.
Did Joe Biden take payments from Burisma or any other foreign companies as vice president, president, or private citizen Biden?
As you may know, there is an ongoing investigation being led by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, Mr. Weiss, appointed by President Trump in the last administration, that our Baltimore field office is working with, and I would refer you to him as to what, if anything, can be shared.
So the president is under investigation.
I'm not going to confirm or speak to who is or isn't under investigation for what. I'm simply going to tell you.
So he's not under investigation?
I didn't say that either. By longstanding department policy and practice, I'm not going to be confirming or denying who is or isn't under investigation.
Oh, there you have it. Christopher Wray. He had a really hard time answering questions yesterday. So he was before the House Judiciary Committee. He gave some testimony. Now, the FBI director claims that he's not even sure if there were undercover agents on January 6th. Yes. So which is it? Is it Joe Biden is under criminal investigation? Is he not? Were there undercover agents at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th? Were there not? You're the FBI director. You should know this. So he said that he's, quote, not sure if there was any undercover agents at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th when questioned about the matter by Congress yesterday. Now, Wray sat before the House Judiciary Committee and then also said, he says, the FBI is absolutely not protecting Joe Biden. The fact that you won't even answer, hey, yes, he's under criminal investigation. No, he's not under criminal investigation. The fact that you won't even answer that question tells me all I really need to know about you protecting the Joe Biden family. Now, on Wednesday, in front of the House Judiciary Committee, FBI Director Christopher Wray faced questions regarding the agency's behavior towards President Joe Biden and his family. So Matt Gaetz confronted Wray and suggested that the FBI was protecting the Bidens. He angrily denied the allegation, and Gaetz referred to this WhatsApp message that allegedly was sent by Hunter Biden to this Chinese oligarch. He's an energy executive in 2017. That's when this WhatsApp message was sent. And his name is Henry Zhao. And he referred to Joe Biden in the message. And he attempted to pressure this Chinese oligarch type guy into making some sort of financial payment. Matt Gaetz read the message out loud. I've talked about this message before. I'm not going to read the entire WhatsApp message, but the gist of it is, I'm sitting here with my father. I'm sitting here waiting for the call with my father. So he is trying to, I mean, really what he does is implicates Joe Biden with that message. So, yeah, there was all kinds of things that came out of that House Judiciary Committee. We are going to be getting to that here on the Morning Buzz, but I've got a few stories in the 6 o'clock hour I want to get to. MSNBC, they're freaking out, folks. They're blaming Joe Biden's staff for not letting him look like, or for letting him look like a feeble, discombobulated kook. That's what's going on, okay? I've talked about it before. How could his staffers sign off on him going shirtless when his opponent on the Democrat side of things, he's facing RFK Jr., his opponent looks like an Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, come on, you do not let Joe Biden go out there shirtless. But MSNBC, they're having a total meltdown. They're not blaming Joe Biden. They're not upset over the fact that he is a feeble old man. and that he shouldn't be running the country. They're not upset about that. They're upset that Joe Biden's staff lets him look like he's a feeble old man, and they don't prevent these visuals from getting out. MSNBC said the quiet part out loud. Oh my. Oh no. CNN committing the unforgivable sin, and they misgender Dylan Mulvaney multiple times on air. Multiple times. Will they ever recover? How could they? Oh my. The the unforgivable sin of misgendering someone. And then, of course, Joy Behar. I've got a lot of leftist news organizations that I'm just bullying in the 6 o'clock hour. So if you like this, this is the show for you. Joy Behar, she needs a cold shower because apparently she says that she gets turned on by Joe Biden and his angry old man outbursts. She said this live on air on The View. We're going to get to all of this and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. As always, I'm live in studio. You can see me. I can see your comments. Interact with me on Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. I'm there. You can also text in to the show at 309-451-9299. All right, so let's get into it. First, let's talk about MSNBC because they're completely losing their marbles here, folks. MSNBC is big mad about Joe Biden not being feeble, but rather his staff letting these visuals, these videos, these pictures of him being feeble get out there. So all the videos of Joe Biden needing to be led along like a child by world leaders. This is going on. I mean, world leaders. We have I forget where he was most recently, but there's these world leaders, and they are taking him by the hand and leading him along like a child. He's barely able to walk. He's fallen flat on his butt multiple times. But this is taking a toll on MSNBC. They're angry. So Micah Brzezinski, I don't know. I don't watch MSNBC, but apparently she was on the Morning Joe show, and she freaked out. Not over the fact that our president barely knows where he is. She's angry at his staff for allowing visuals of him looking like he doesn't know where he is to be let out there into the public eye. So this Micah Brzezinski, she scolds Joe Biden's staff. Let's take a listen to it. Here we go. This is on the Morning Joe yesterday. Here we go.
A president's schedule, and you are managing a president getting on stage and getting off stage and getting on planes and getting off planes. And yes, he's 80. You need to be there for him, and you need to make a pathway. And you sure as hell better make sure he doesn't fall on a sandbag. And I blame the staff for that. I mean, these are the things that are going to hurt him. These are things that are going to be played on a loop. Okay, let him do his job. Let him do his speeches. Let him work on policy. Let him do his connections in Congress, unlike any president that we've seen, I don't know, since Clinton. But my God, make sure, your Secret Service, you're his staff, that you were there and you're telling him what's next. And it's not because, don't take this as, oh, he can't even get from one place to another. When you're busy and you're on stage, and we've been on stage, right. I've done speeches, and I'm so nervous. I'm doing the speech. I'm trying to get it right. And when it's done, I don't know which way to go. And I'm looking for direction. So do a better job. Because you can't have these video images of the president tripping or the president going the wrong way. It's not going to work in this presidency because his age is going to be a factor. His age is going to be a factor, and it's your job to make sure he gets from one place to another. He can handle the presidency. You have to handle his schedule and where he goes.
Well, and the schedule.
It makes me mad.
The scheduling.
It makes me mad. I mean, wait, so you're mad. You're berating his staffers for letting them like the visuals get out there, they can't help that Joe Biden is a feeble, dementia-riddled man. They can't help that. I don't believe in berating the staffers. However, this woman on the Morning Joe, Mika, whatever her name is, and Joe Biden, they think that berating staffers is definitely the option. Though I do agree. The images of Joe Biden out on the beach shirtless in his turtle swim trunks, whoever signed off on that, they do need to be relieved of their duties immediately, because who would allow him to go out there on the beach shirtless when he's running against literally RFK Jr., who looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger? And I'm curious what this Mika woman thinks Joey is supposed to do when he's with the King of England, or with one of the prime ministers, or some sort of world leader, right? What does she think he's supposed to do? Joe Biden, he can't bring along a nurse or an intern with him to go walk up there. That would break protocol. The world would be laughing at us. What does she want? Does she want a nurse to follow him around everywhere? We all know how this is going to end, folks. CNN, their PR account, they're going to tweet out an apology. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to take a quick break. But CNN, they committed the unforgivable sin, and they misgendered somebody on air multiple times. So I'm sure this is going to go away with the CNN PR account tweeting an apology. But I think that we should appreciate still that it happened. The CNN misgendering somebody. All right, I'm going to be back with that story plus more. I've got Joy Behar saying that she's turned on by Joe Biden's angry old man outburst. That's bizarre. What? Yes, she said this live on air, folks, on The View. I've got so much to get to, so much. You can text in at 309-451-9299, and I'm going to be on the live stream, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I'm there. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. Now, there's a couple of things I do want to get to today, including, and when I say Hollywood are people always say, "Kat, you're crazy. They're not satanic worshipers. They're not targeting children." And then videos come out, and you're like, "Oh, here they are." Sucking the blood from stuffed animals and performing satanic rituals. And then you're like, oh, wait, here's another video of them literally saying, we're coming for your children. So I have this it's a Disney-backed show on Hulu, and it's about a girl who inherits a human sacrificing, blood-drinking cult with this all eye-seeing logo. So when I say demons prowl the streets of Hollywood, it's because they do. I don't see how this could be approved. Now, I'm sure that this is an adult cartoon or whatever. It looks like it would be made for something for kids. The cartoon, the animation looks very much kid friendly, although it's not. And it's on Hulu, and it's backed by Disney. And it's just I just don't get, maybe it's me. I don't know. I just don't get this stuff. I don't understand how Hollywood sees this and they're like, yes, we are going to back this. We're going to put a bunch of money in this, and this is going to be a huge hit. This is disturbing. So I'm going to be playing this. When I say that demons prowl the streets of Hollywood, it's because they do. Hey, if you're watching right now, go ahead, smash that like button. Give us a like, give us a share. The Public Safety Committee in California, their state assembly, so they're Springfield, right? Their GA, General Assembly, they got together and they blocked Senate Bill 14. Now, what is Senate Bill 14? Senate Bill 14 would have made human trafficking of a minor a serious felony in California. Now, trafficking victims were heard sobbing as they announced this decision that they blocked this bill. And all it does is it makes human trafficking a serious felony. And I guess people took issue with that. Democrats in California took issue with that. The DOJ's child sex trafficking webpage, like I covered yesterday, removed 3 sections from its area of concern. 1 being international sex trafficking of minors, 2 being domestic sex trafficking of minors, 3 being child victims of prostitution. So they took all of that information down from their webpage. We've got California blocking a bill that makes human trafficking a serious felony. Then we have the legacy media. I mean, they are working overtime to try to discredit and smear the Sound of Freedom film. It's sad what they're calling this film. They say it's a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. It's a QAnon adjacent. There's all kinds of terrible smears that they're saying about this movie, Sound of Freedom. Are you paying attention yet? Are you paying attention yet? Do you see what's happening to this country? We are normalizing prostitution. And this is like an octopus. And I have a really cool clip from Jim Caviezel. He was on the Charlie Kirk show, and Charlie Kirk had said that this was one of the hardest interviews he's ever done. It was a heavy interview. Quote, I've ever been a part of. This is the most heavy interview I've ever been a part of, about themes found in the film Sound of Freedom. Please listen to the entire interview and share it with your friends and family. It's that important. And Jim Caviezel gets out there and he starts talking about this, eight armed octopus. And I'm trying to get that across to people when we talk about the Sound of Freedom, or when I'm trying to get people to go watch the Sound of Freedom. And essentially, human trafficking isn't just taking kids and moving them from place to place. There are so many different layers to it, and so many different uh, mm, ways of revenue, I guess. I can't believe it. They sell the images of children to pedophiles. We are the number one consumer. That is a very important statistic uh, of human trafficking here in the United States. There's the pedophiles, there's the celebrities who entice the children into, and there's so many different things. We shouldn't be, I mean, if you ask a 7th grader or an 8th grader or even your kid today, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Most likely their answer is going to be actress, actor, or influencer, social media influencer. And that's a big problem. Kids should not, that is not something kids should be going into, because that world, the Hollywood world, is dangerous, and they take children, um, and they create these child actors, they traffic them, and and I'm starting to see it as I grow up, because all of the child actors I really enjoyed watching on the Disney Channel, right? I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. You look at them today and they're unrecognizable. Just look at Miley Cyrus, look at Demi Lovato. Um, they did not act like that on screen years ago. Um, they weren't literally performing satanic rituals, Demi Lovato, in a music video, and they weren't swinging from wrecking balls completely naked. Uh, there's something that happens to children when they get into the world of acting, influence, being famous. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate you. Now, we are going to be getting to this story here. Joy Behar, saying that she gets turned on when Joe Biden has these angry old man outbursts. Yes, that's a little bit too much information. That's TMI, Joy Behar. You put the T in TMI, too much T in TMI, too much information. So we're going to get to that story, plus CNN committing the unforgivable sin and misgendering Dylan Mulvaney multiple times on air. Dylan Mulvaney is the guy. He sings show tunes in leather underwear, and he sings things like "Normalize the Bulge." He dresses in women's clothes. He pretends to be a woman. He really makes a mockery of women. And he was the guy that Bud Light had tried to, or well, Bud Light actually signed on as some sort of sponsor, and it has caused Bud Light to lose billions of dollars. So we're going to get to all of that here on the Morning Buzz. But first, I do want to play this. Jim Caviezel, he sat down with Charlie Kirk, and they had an interview. And, you know, it's really quite interesting how this sounds. He puts it like this. He says that human trafficking is an 8-armed octopus. I'm going to break that down in what Jim is saying here after watching the Sound of Freedom film. I recommend you go listen to the entire interview. Charlie Kirk is one of our national syndicated radio show hosts here. He is on Sunday from 9 to noon, but listen to Jim Caviezel. Here we go. The Sound of Freedom film. I mean, I think over 3 million tickets have been sold. And, you know, I saw this yesterday, and I just want you to be paying attention. And I just can't believe that this is happening. The DOJ website, and I talked about this yesterday, they took down 3 sections of their webpage, the official DOJ webpage ran by the criminal division here. They said that these aren't areas of concern anymore. International sex trafficking of minors, domestic sex trafficking of minors, and child victims of prostitution. They took all these sections down from their website. Plus, over in California, they just blocked a bill that would have made human trafficking a serious felony in the state of California. Trafficking victims that were there in the state assembly, they were there listening to the bill. They heard it blocked, and they started sobbing as the decision to block this bill was announced. Meanwhile, we've got legacy media. They're working overtime to try to discredit and smear this movie, Sound of Freedom, as a QAnon film. And, you know, this is a, quote, superhero movie for dads with brainworms. Are you paying attention? Hollywood is sick. Which brings me to this story. Disney, they are backing a show on Hulu. And the show is about a girl who inherits a human sacrificing, blood drinking cult with an all-seeing eye logo. So that's what the cult's logo is. It's an all-seeing eye. It's like I guess it's the Illuminati eye. I don't know. But when I say demons prowl the streets of Hollywood, it's because they do. Who in their right mind would come up with this movie?
It's morning again. The sun is shining. The goats are screaming. And I'm still here despite the fact that last night I witnessed someone get ritualistically murdered by my dad's cult that I just inherited.
Oh, here we go.
What the? I'm Petey. I had it all. Mother!
Here.
What's this?
It's a message from your father.
It's me, your father. The community of New Utopia is all yours.
I just needed to figure out my place in my
Dead dad's weird town. I'm walking here.
The great daughter! She's arrived!
Welcome to New Utopia. I'm new to this being the cult leader thing. Thank you.
You get the gist. Yeah, it's about a girl who inherits a blood-sucking, human-sacrificing cult from her dad. Like, I I like, what? Who comes up with this stuff? Oh, yeah, that's right, the people in Hollywood. They come up with this stuff because they are demons prowling the streets, and they're cool with this cartoon being on Hulu for kids to watch, and Disney is totally cool with backing something like this. When I say demons prowl the streets of Hollywood, it's because they do. This is a weird film. 309-451-9299. You can text me. Joy Behar, she says that she is turned on by Joe Biden. What? She said it live on air. These people are weird, man. What? I don't know. I guess I pulled some really weird stories this morning. I guess I just pulled a bunch of weird ones. I did not mean to, but yeah, there was that story. There's Joy Behar, there's CNN misgendering, Dylan Mulvaney, there's all kinds of them. I also heard that California is trying to pass a law that African American fathers no longer have to pay child support. Whew. Wow. So actually yesterday, that kind of reminds me of Vivek Ramaswamy. He let this woman talk, and she was losing her marble. She interrupts him, and she is at this Iowa event, and she interrupts him, and she starts screaming about abortion, and she's like, "I'm a single mother, and the system does nothing for me," and blah blah blah. And Vivek Ramaswamy, I think, and I started to really see that this woman is not a pro-abortionist like she claims. She's upset that she's a single mother and she couldn't imagine having another child, and she's upset with the father who left her. And the Democrat Party and leftists, they incentivize women being single, they incentivize women not having a father figure in the picture. And this law in California, African American fathers no longer having to pay child support. It's not shocking, but that's just another example of them trying to make it to where the woman is alone. It's much easier to take children, and to we've been talking about the movie Sound of Freedom. I just showed you the Hollywood. It's much easier to take children when they only have one parent in comparison to two, especially if that parent is just the mother. It's all for their their cause of getting children to act weird and act out. Why do kids act like they are cats, dogs, kitty litter boxes in the school? It's because they don't have a father figure, and the only way they can convince people to vote for this nonsense is if they indoctrinate them early, and if they get them to be weirdos growing up. Right? That's really what it comes down to, and if they can take the father out, and it's so sad because, um, African American fathers are very traditional, and I've got a, friend, her name is, Jasmine, and she's been on the program before. I'm gonna have to get her in, but her family is very traditional and, very Christian, right? And her father, her mother are both together still, and what they're doing to the Black community specifically, I mean, this is the same Democrat Party who enslaved people, the Southern Democrats. And Abraham Lincoln, the Republican, freed them with the Emancipation Proclamation in the 1800s. So, this is the same Democrat Party that's racist. They like to kill babies, specifically Black babies. This African American father is no longer having to pay child support. This is incentivizing Black women to abort, because if they can't even get the child support from the man who impregnated them, what what is going to are they going to have the child anymore? No, they don't want Black babies. That's what it is. But the Democrat Party does not want Black babies. They never have. The person who is, the head of Planned Parenthood, I forget her name. Oh, man. Shoot it in the comments if you know it. Shoot, I always forget this woman's name. But she's the head of Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger. That's it. Margaret Sanger. She's the head of Planned Parenthood, like, and created Planned Parenthood, and she was a KKK member. So there you go. That's just the Democrat Party in a nutshell. This is just another example. This I see the writing on the wall here. We're going to see more and more African American women aborting their children if they can't afford to pay, and they know that the state of California isn't going to make the father have some sort of obligation to that child through a form of child support. Then I just think that this is going to lead to more Black babies being aborted. Um, yeah, so we are going to be getting to CNN misgendering Dylan Mulvaney. Did you guys see this? This is a concern for me. Sports bettors in Illinois, they wagered nearly $822 million in May. So that's a lot of money. And I guess this year we've pocketed $14.4 million in tax revenue from Illinois sports betting. That's up 32% from 2022. I'm looking at these numbers and I'm wondering, does Illinois have a sports betting problem? Uh, this is we're like, and more, that's more than any other state wagering $822 million in May, except New York. New York has a bit more than us. But May is traditionally a slow month in sports betting. But Illinois sports books took 7.5% more bets and pocketed 40% more revenue than they did in May of 2022. Do we have a sports betting problem? Mm-mm. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. You can text in at 309-451-9299 on Fox News. A Springfield, Illinois teenager. She got kicked off of a YMCA swim team. Now she's being accused of hate speech for protesting a naked man in the women's locker room. So I'm going to be getting to this teenage girl. Her name is Abigail Wheeler. I talked about her a little bit yesterday, but there have been multiple stories about YMCAs specifically that are infuriating. And I'm going to go through these stories one at a time. There's one coming from Ohio. There's another one coming from Washington. So this is deeply disturbing news stories that surround YMCAs and their locker rooms. They must all have the same locker room policy. But the Springfield teen, she got kicked off of the YMCA swim team here in Illinois. So we're going to get to that here coming up in just a little bit. Joy Behar, she needs to take a cold shower, folks, because she's getting turned on by Joe Biden and his angry old man outbursts. Well, that's a little bit TMI, don't you think? Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about a CNN reporter, Ryan Young. Now, he committed the, unforgivable sin, and he misgendered Dylan Mulvaney. Before we get into all of that, I do want to play this interview I've got of Mike Swartz. There's a McLean County Fair coming to town, and he's got all the details. Let's take a listen. Here we go. Live shark show in the nation, and the McLean County Fair has got it. It's Mike Swartz, and he's joining me here on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. Mike, I'm excited about the sharks. You were with me a couple of weeks ago. We talked about the sharks, but tell me a little bit about this live shark show and how it's traveling and how it's the only one in the nation, and how you guys even went about getting this shark to McLean County.
So I actually attend the national convention each year. It's been in Vegas. It's been in Indianapolis last year. It's been in Houston, Texas. Been all over the United States. And each year, fairs and festivals all over the United States and Canada come to this exhibit, to this show. And that is actually where I meet a lot of these entertainers that bring to the fair, as well as a live shark show. The company used to own it, now is in the Sea Lions. But I'll go ahead and follow up. The company I've hired is a live shark show. They have stingrays, but we're not able to bring those to our fair because they're somewhere else in the nation. In the event, you'll see several sharks. You'll see a gentleman get into a scuba gear. He'll swim in the tank with them. They're not great white sharks that are ferociously hungry. They're actually there for educational purposes. So we're having Shark Week at McLean County Fair, July 26th through the 30th.
July 26th through the 30th. That is coming up, folks, fast. That is approaching us faster and faster. So there's one thing I also wanted to ask you about the entertainment tent. So you're talking about entertainment. The Live Shark Show is going to be there. What's underneath the entertainment tent this year? I know that we are always camped out there. Cities 92.9. I'll be out there for the entirety of the fair. And a nice warm weather, the smell of corn dogs and lemonade shake-ups. But what's going on at the entertainment tent? It's the free entertainment tent too.
That whole area in which the sharks is free to exhibit that all day. We have a butterfly exhibit. We have longhorn and shorthorn cattle, kind of a early American agriculture before we started head engines and those activities. But the free entertainment tent has 5 entertainers all day long, almost all day long, 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. until Cities takes over with potentially some entertainment in the evening. But we have entertainers that really entertain kids from 2 years old to 12 years old. It's constant all day long. If you're interested in getting some balloon twisted object or animal, they can do that for you there all day long from 11 to 5 or 6. Then we have women dressed up and unique characters. They're not quite Cinderella, but they sing entertaining songs for kids. We have ventriloquists. We actually have multiple entertainers throughout the day who do magic. To all different age levels. They're used to working with young children, so it's not as if they're adult-based, scaling it down to children. They work with children all the time. So.
And I think that's a cool thing because, a lot of young parents or even just parents in general, it's really hard to find entertainment for the whole family at fairs and festivals because there's always this big old beer tent, right? And it's a lot of adult, not to say that McLean County Fair doesn't have that. So tune in, folks, if you're listening right now and you're like, but Kat, I love the beer tent. So what kind of adult fun is there at the McLean County Fair?
So adults can learn just as much as anything as they're following their kids around. So the shark exhibit is really neat and fun.
Oh, I'm going to be.
Butterfly exhibit's educational regarding the pollinators of our world, and in addition to bees. Then the early agriculture, the longhorn, shorthorn animals, and of course that tent. But not only can adults learn during those processes, but we also have our evening entertainment. If they want to come out to the Tobin's Pizza, Big Smokers Tractor Pull, and local pickup truck pull-offs on Wednesday. We have the Yad Music Festival on Friday night featuring Dylan Scott as a country music entertainer. And of course, we always love our Saturday nights, Dono and Tire Demolition Derby. So we have all those activities. And of course, adults can easily browse through all of the 4-H exhibits that are on the ground. If they're livestock in each of the barns or in our general project area, they can go see what our youth are doing and what the skills they're learning as they grow up to be adults.
See, and this is a huge fair that y'all put on every year. And I know that you guys are looking for volunteers. Is that correct?
We do ask for some volunteers, particularly in our ag education exhibit, the Fun and Farm Zone that our staff puts on. Nationally recognized, this national convention, as told you, 10 years ago, we won the premier award amongst all the other fairs in the nation. So we're looking for volunteers there, but we are looking for about 6 to 8 additional employees to man our gates, scan tickets, be at the grandstand, be greeters, those types of things. So those are paid positions if they want to come out and work for us. They just need to stop by our office there at the McLean County Farm Bureau building on the west side of town, right next to Tractor Supply.
Wonderful. And one more thing that I wanted to talk about because, okay, I'm excited for the Sharks. I'm excited for the Demolition Derby. So the Demolition Derby, what's that like this year? And from what I can remember is you actually can participate in it, but maybe that window is closed where you can actually get in a car and be demolished.
So this time, I may have shared with you when we were here several weeks ago, is the production company that we're using, Raymer Productions, who comes and puts the Demolition Derby on for us. They're from the Mendota area. They actually have they're building 3 cars. 2 of them are currently sold. So if you're interested in someone laying down $400 to get a demo derby car for the night, that's what they can do. They can lay down $400, get a car that's already pre-built, it's compact, and go out, bring a helmet along, and enjoy the fun.
Wow, that's so much fun. And one more thing I wanted to ask you mentioned the tractor pull. So when is that?
That's actually 2 weeks from tomorrow night. So it's the Tobin's Pizza Big Smokers tractor pull. And in addition, the backside of the 2 tractor pulls, we actually have local pickup truck pull off. So it's bragging rights based upon how you have your truck. Most of them are stock, come out. And we've been fortunate Tobin's Pizza has been with us for almost 20 years of supporting this event. Mo and Karen Davis and their son Brandon have been wonderful to work with, getting those, reaching out and really supporting the kids. In the process. That's what the fair is about, is seeing our youth grow and mature and seeing that process. And there are thousands of kids all across this county who have gone through 4-H and benefited from showing and exhibiting livestock animals as well as general projects at the county fair.
Yeah, I'll never forget when I asked a little girl, she was so small, just a small little girl. And I was like, so what kind of animal were you showing? And she goes, a sheep. And she was just dressed to the nine. She looked beautiful. And then she was so excited. She could not stop talking about the sheep that she had showed at the McLean County Fair. And it's always really cool when you walk into the fair. Well, where I walk in there, I think it's towards the west entrance. Where I walk in, there's this whole barn of the animals, and the fans are going, and you can see the cows, and people just camp out right there next to the cows, right next to their cow, and they just sit there and they watch their cows. And people come up, they start pointing and looking at all of the cows. So it's really cool. Anything else that you would like to add about the McLean County Fair this year?
We didn't discuss food, but we always have a lot of great fair food in the ground. So those who love funnel cakes or lemon shake cups, corn dogs, you can get all those there. But of course, we have our local McLean County beef and pork producers who serve their product here locally right out of the rabbit poultry barn there in the kitchen. They serve a great product, but we have lots of other items as well, vendors that come all the way from Georgia, Texas. They do a circuit up in Illinois, but they have a lot of great fair food as well that people can enjoy.
Fair food. That stuff is dangerous, but I will be getting a lemon shake up when I'm there. So thanks so much, Mike Swartz, for joining me here on Cities 92.9.
Thanks.
All right, folks, we're going to be back here on the other side. You won't want to miss it because CNN committing the unforgivable sin. They misgendered Dylan Mulvaney. Plus, Joy Behar says that Joe Biden turns her on. Bizarre. You guys are gonna want to come back. All right, good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. A few things that I want to talk about today, including Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, denying that the FBI actually violated the First Amendment, freedom of speech, by suppressing Hunter Biden's laptops on social media. So Christopher Wray, he was at this House Judiciary Committee yesterday, and the director, Chris Wray, was questioned about the involvement of the FBI suppressing free speech online. And Christopher Wray says he does not believe that the federal agency violated the First Amendment. You can believe whatever you want, Ray, but to be honest with you, the First Amendment was violated in this suppression of the story. It's called freedom of the press. It's called freedom of speech. And the FBI throttled and suppressed this news story from breaking. So during the hearing, there was a Republican representative, Harriet Hagman. I haven't heard of her, but she probed the FBI director about his involvement of the FBI by proxy in shutting down free speech of American citizens online. Now, the representative said that it was established that the FBI and other federal agencies met weekly with executives from major social media companies. We know this. I mean, the famous clip of Mark Zuckerberg straight up saying with Joe Rogan on a podcast that the FBI came to them and said that the story wasn't true and that they had an obligation to censor it. So social media companies, including Twitter, YouTube, Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, Yahoo, Verizon, blah, 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 they all met with these people and told them that this Hunter Biden story was going to be published and that they needed to throttle it. They needed to suppress it because it was discredited. She continued by saying that the committee has learned that the FBI acted to discredit leaked information about Hunter Biden before, after it was published. So, um, multiple requests from the FBI went to Twitter to take action on election misinformation and even involving joke tweets from low follower accounts. So even if you joked about Hunter Biden in the laptop, they said, hey, the FBI went to Twitter and said, hey, you have to take that down. So very disturbing stuff, folks. The FBI actively going against Ray is as crooked as a question mark. Exactly. Christopher Wray, I mean, there were multiple things he said. One thing as well in this House Judiciary Committee that he was saying, he said he didn't know um, if there were undercover agents on January 6th there. And he goes, I'm not sure. You would think that the FBI director would know if there's agents deployed at January 6th. Sorry, excuse me. Ugh. More coffee. Okay, but this just in. So it's interesting how that happened with the House Judiciary Committee. And he says, I don't know if there were January 6th undercover agents there. But then there's also this lawsuit against Fox News. So Ray Epps, who I think is an undercover FBI agent, he has this lawsuit against Fox News. And he reveals he's being criminally charged in this lawsuit by the DOJ 2.5 years later after the January 6th riot. So the details of Ray Epps' civil complaint against Fox News reveals that he's being criminally charged by the DOJ. So I don't know, that might poke holes in my theory here. Now the DOJ, they can criminally charge him and like make it look like they're actually charging him. But he is also, I mean, he's not in prison, right? So 2.5 years later, Ray Epps is getting arrested. What on earth is going on? So I think that they're trying to downplay that there were undercover agents there, and possibly Ray Epps is one of them. And they're trying to bring charges against Ray Epps. So 2.5 years later, Ray Epps is getting arrested. What on earth? Ray Epps admitted that he said, we'll go inside the Capitol in the civil complaint, but says it's trying to fit in with other Trump supporters. I'm reading the complaint here. Fox News is being sued for defamation. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can see me live in the studio on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. I'm there. Now, before we took the break, we were talking a little bit about CNN committing the greatest sin, the unforgivable sin that is, of course, misgendering someone. So, we all know how this is going to end. CNN, their PR account, they're going to tweet out an apology, and the CNN journalism responsible for this is going to beg for forgiveness and possibly even accept some sort of suspension. And he's going to go off and he's going to re-educate himself. And it's likely that there's a nonprofit out there who's going to get this big check from CNN, because they have to virtue signal, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to give away some of our money to one of these nonprofit organizations that are helping fight hate speech against transgender people. Who knows? Let's not be sad that this is probably going to go away within a day or so, and that this ridiculousness is going to be over quickly with this PR account tweeting out an apology. If that hasn't happened already, I don't know. I haven't checked. But CNN, this journalismer, he's going to beg for forgiveness. Let's not get hung up on, the response so much as rather we should appreciate that this happened at all. So we have Ryan Young. He referred to this controversial TikTok performer, Dylan Mulvaney, who was the Bud Light spokesperson, right? He's the reason why Bud Light is and likely, I'm calling it right now here, folks, probably going to have a Bed Bath and Beyond situation on their hands where they have to declare bankruptcy. But we have this CNN reporter. His name is Ryan Young, and he referred to Dylan as he, him on air. And no one on air, live on air, corrected him for using the wrong pronouns. Dylan Mulvaney uses she, them, she, they pronouns, however you use those. Let's take a listen here. Here we go.
Treated after this whole controversy started. He, of course, is the transgender person they were going to sponsor and go along with Bud Light. They didn't like how Bud Light didn't stand by him after all this.
There you have it, folks. And journalist Ryan Young, gendering. I know perspective on the Bud Light drama. They're trying to be pro-LGBT here. And the correspondent here, Ryan Young, referred to Mulvaney as he and as him. Mulvaney goes by she, they. And I mean, God, man, even I, the right-wing extremist radio host, I know the proper pronouns of Dylan Mulvaney. Sure, I might use them out of a great sense of mockery and sarcasm, and I am of the belief that sometimes when you use the preferred pronouns, it's funnier if you use them as a cunning, in a cunning mocking type way. But come on, Dylan Mulvaney, she, they. You're on CNN, son. Act like this is important, okay? Even I use Dylan Mulvaney's pronouns, she, they. So according to the New York Post, they've got all the tweets here. Twitter reacted just the way I thought they were going to. The leftists on Twitter anyway. They say, quote, here's a tweet from some sort of leftist. Wow, absolute garbage segment. Despicable, poor journalism. What horrible coverage. And the pundit couldn't even correctly gender Dylan. This makes me so sad. God. So where is Dylan now? Well, Dylan is on holiday in Central America. Them was busy playing with a llama. I have the clip here. So he has fled to Peru. He flew to Peru for some much needed solo travel time, and they. See, this is hard. I get it, Ryan. Okay, I get it. This is tough. They is soul searching after they complained that them no longer felt safe in the United States. So I'm going to be back here playing that clip for you. Plus, Joy Behar thinks that Joe Biden's hot. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. Dylan Mulvaney, he has a video out there, and I'm going to be playing it for you here coming up at 7:05. But she, they went to Peru and was playing with a llama, said that he had to leave the United States because he was scared and he felt safe in Peru, and it's too dangerous to stay in the United States. So he fled to Peru. So we're going to be talking about Dylan Mulvaney plus Joy Behar saying that Joe Biden turns her on when he has these angry old man outbursts. Now, I have a couple of examples of Joe Biden's angry old man outbursts. Now, there are a few stories that I am going to get to regarding YMCAs around the nation. And the reason why I pulled these this morning is because there's a Springfield teenager who got kicked off of a YMCA swim team. I've never been a fan of the YMCA. They've always been woke, at least in my lifetime. I'm 24. So I've never seen a time when YMCAs weren't woke. My mom loves going to the Y. It's supposed to be some sort of Christian organization. This is not very Christian-like. I'm just going to say that. This teen girl in Springfield has been accused of hate speech. She got kicked off her YMCA swim team for protesting naked men being in the women's locker room. So I have a couple of stories from around the nation at YMCA specifically. There was one transgender man who actually exposed his female penis to minors, but the judge ruled that this trans man, I don't know what you call it, a man with a penis who pretends he's a woman. The judge actually ruled this. He said that the woman was way too fat for the penis to be visible. Yes, the headline from the Daily Mail with this story, and I remember seeing this story. The woman is cleared of flashing her penis at 3 women using an Ohio YMCA after the judge ruled that she's too fat for her genitals to be seen and to be visible. Yes. That that actually happened, folks. We live in cuckoo land. I'm telling you, I just don't get this. I'm gonna show you guys a picture of this person because I think the picture is necessary for the story here out of Ohio, where this judge said, "You're too fat." Here we go. Okay. You guys ready for the picture? Actually, the judge said, no, there's no way that the women in the YMCA locker room in Ohio could have seen the genitals of this man because this man is too fat. So that's actually what happened here. So we have um, this story coming from the Daily Mail, and it's actually headlined. I'll just show you. Trans woman is cleared of flashing her penis at 3 women using Ohio YMCA after a judge ruled that she's too fat for her genitals to be visible. So Darren, who goes by the name Rachel, was found not guilty on 3 counts of indecent exposure. The 31-year-old's lawyers claim that her gut is way too large for her penis to be exposed. So complaints stated that there were 3 juveniles present during this incident in Xena, I think it's Xena, Ohio. The judge ruled that the transgender woman could not have indecently exposed her penis at the YMCA female changing room after agreeing with her claim that she's too fat for it to be visible. Wow. Oh my God. Oh gosh. I pull these stories and I think to myself, Kat, you've really done it this time. There's another story, an elderly woman. She was taking a shower in a YMCA, a Washington YMCA. Her name is Julie Jaman, and she said, quote, I saw a man in a woman's bathing suit watching maybe 4 or 5 little girls pulling down their bathing suits in order to use the toilet. Now, Julie found that to be wrong. She said, that's not right. Why is this man watching these little girls? And most normal people would find something wrong with that. So Julie was later accused of being hateful because it turns out that this wasn't just a man, it was a trans woman. So Julie was banned from the YMCA because she took issue with this man watching these 4 or 5 little girls pull down their bathing suits in order to use the toilet. So it's heartbreaking. It's infuriating that this is going on here in Springfield, Illinois, but it goes on everywhere. I recommend if you go to the YMCA, check it out. Check out your locker room. See what's going on there. Because I guarantee you might run into the likelihood that you run into a trans woman exposing himself to little girls is very high. I pulled just a couple of stories from YMCAs around the nation. Now there are some other things that I want to get to this morning. Ron DeSantis, he's supposed to be meeting with major donors. I'm not going to say it right now that he's going to be dropping out. But I do think that he's going to be dropping out here in some time, not in recent weeks, but I think he will wind up dropping out because he is just not delivering for these major donors, and they're going to be running with somebody else. And I think that person is going to be Glenn Youngkin. But Ron DeSantis is to meet with some major donors, and he's supposed to face questions about campaign viability. So Governor Ron DeSantis will reportedly inform donors that he plans to play the long game when it comes to President Donald Trump. He's going to be flying out to New York next week to have a crisis meeting with East Major Coast donors amidst this poll numbers coming out. This is his campaign is just on fire. Ron DeSantis is. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. You can tune in via Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. I'm there. Joy Behar, who is extremely racist. She's putting the T in TMI. Way too much information. She thinks that Joe Biden is hot, and she's turned on by him. Yes, I'm going to be getting to that story. Dylan Mulvaney, he said, you know what? The United States is just treating me so bad. I have to flee. I have to go to Peru and I have to play with some llamas and I need some solo travel and I need to do some soul searching after them complained that it's no longer safe in the United States. So she's saying it's no longer safe in the United States for her. She, them, I say this sarcastically and with cunning. Him, he's a man, pretending to be a woman, but he uses the she, they pronouns. So she, they no longer felt safe in the United States. So he fled the country. And then also this story, quite disturbing. A teenage girl is expressing concern about men being in women's locker room at the YMCA here in Springfield. So because it's 2023, the girl is, of course, being accused of hate speech, and she was kicked off the swim team, the YMCA swim team. And did I mention the men identify as transgender women? So men who identify as transgender women, they're not men. So hence the teenage girl not wanting to be naked around them is being in the wrong here because they're transgender women. They're women. Come on. So we've got all of that and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. Let's get to Joy Behar. She needs to take a cold shower because she gets turned on by Joe Biden's angry outbursts. Yeah, she said this live on television. Oh my gosh. So I can't even say this with a straight face. Like I was hesitant to pull this story this morning because I was like, am I going to be able to do this without laughing? Axios, they released the story this week, and I think there's a coordinated effort to try to get Joe Biden to step out of the race by the extreme radical left. I think that they want him to step out and just say, due to medical concerns, I'm no longer running for president of the United States. Insert Gavin Newsom. But Axios, they released this story this week as part of a coordinated effort to try to, get Joe to get out of the race. So this is about this story by Axios, Joe Biden's profanity-laced, vicious verbal attacks at his White House staffers behind the scenes, like good little journalismers, right? The people at Axios, other journalismers, these journalismers, they did their best to try to turn Joe Biden's severe anger issues into some sort of virtue. So it's a good thing that he's extremely angry and look, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. These journalismers, they weren't spinning it correctly. So what did the regime do? When the regime needs people with no dignity, no self-respect, to make excuses for Joeys with no questions asked, when the regime needs something spun for them, and they need somebody who just has no self-respect, somebody who has no dignity, who do they go to? The experts, the ladies on The View. So Joy Behar, who's extremely racist, by the way, critics say, she put the T in TMI, folks. She thinks that Joe Biden whipping out his white male privilege and spraying profanities all over his aides got her all hot and bothered. So he's just so many profanities, his White House aides. She says that she's hot and bothered by Joe Biden and his angry outbursts. Deeply disturbing. Let's take a listen to it here on The View.
He's such a mild-mannered, sweet guy.
But you know he's not. We've heard. Listen, he has dropped more f-bombs than I have.
Uncle Joe
over the years.
Uncle Joe has
over the
done
years.
that.
I mean, over the years we've heard him off mic say stuff. I mean, he's a regular guy. I don't know what she's talking about.
Well,
Like,
he doesn't-
she doesn't like this. She doesn't like
I don't
that.
think that it's flipping that it's like anger management, and he needs anger management. He just blows off steam. It's white male privilege, it's called. You know, imagine if it's a woman or a black guy doing that.
What? She said it live on air, folks, that she's hot and bothered by. Now, here what they were referencing, there was this Fox News contributor, DJ Kennedy, and I guess he made a joke about it, getting turned on by Biden's foul language. Now, Kennedy grew up around rock stars, that was libertarian, so DJ Lisa Kennedy looked up. I'm assuming she's heard much worse, or look her up, DJ Lisa Kennedy. So she's probably heard much worse than from what Joe Biden says. But Behar should be taken seriously when she took this conservative joking about such things. So she took this conservative who was joking about, Joe Biden's angry outburst turning people on. She took this joke and she went completely serious with it. She's not joking there when she says that she's turned on by it as well. This conservative, however, was clearly joking when they said, "Oh yeah, you're turned on by Joe Biden's foul language." What? I mean, he had to make it weird. Joy Behar, she had to make it weird. And I'll be honest, it was refreshing to hear Joe Biden curses out everyone around him. The ladies in the view there, they said, "Oh, well, this is just what Uncle Joe does. He just lashes out at people." I will say that's kind of comforting because I thought that Joe Biden just lashed out at the American people for no reason most of the time. So here's Joe Biden lashing out at the American people, saying that the American people are stupid, essentially, for blaming inflation on government spending. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
I'm sick of this stuff. We have to talk about it because the American people think the reason for inflation is government spending more money. Simply not true. I'm sick of this stuff.
He's losing it up there, folks. Joe Biden is losing it. If that's not enough for you, here's another example of Joe Biden completely lashing out at the American people. Now, let's take a listen to this. Here we go.
Fewer democracies in the world today than we did 15 years ago.
Boy.
Cannot be sustained. That's why from day one of my administration, I've taken concrete steps to put human rights back at the center of our foreign policy and reassert our moral leadership on the global stage. To lead, as Chris has so often heard me say, with the power of our example, not the example of our power. We have fewer democracies in the world today than we did 15 years ago. Fewer, not more, fewer.
This angry outburst. I'm afraid of Joe Biden. I don't know what Joy Behar is talking about here. So watching that, I'm telling you, I'm thinking that this is a sitting in it exact same speech I've heard this given before. I watched The Office. Jim Halpert, right? When I watch things like Joe Biden get up there and have all of these angry outbursts that are just really random, I think about the story here from The Office where Dwight Schrute, some backstory here. Dwight Schrute was named Salesman of the Year and he had to give a speech. Now, Jim Halpert in the TV series called The Office gave Dwight some public speaking tips. Now, Jim is, pranking him and he says, "You've got to wave your arms and pound your fists." And Jim also downloaded speeches from some of the most effective public speakers in history, i.e. Mussolini, Stalin, Hitler, So this is, there you had Joe Biden, okay? I just played for you Joe Biden and his angry outbursts of a speech. This is Dwight and his big speech from The Office. Let's take a listen.
How long we have been striving for greatness. Not only the years we've been at war, the war of work, but from the moment as a child when we realized that the world could be conquered. It has been a lifetime struggle, a never-ending fight, I say to you, and you will understand that it is a privilege to fight.
Folks, when I was watching that speech from Joe Biden, I was like, gosh, this really is this just reminds me of Dwight Schrute from The Office. It turns out Joe Biden is angry all of the time, okay? And if it's basic anger management issues, or if it's the outbursts that have to deal with, early onset dementia, that's what I think this is. This is just early onset dementia. He's having an issue trying to exhibit feelings, or this is just his early onset dementia. Now, people are going to try to say that it's basic anger management issues or whatever. I think it's his early onset dementia, but point is, Trump would never do something like this. I'm just going to be honest with you. Trump, he's a perfect public speaker. Trump would never get angry in a speech like that and just foam at the mouth and pound his fists on a podium. That's just not what Trump does. Now, I do want to switch gears. Let's talk about the Springfield, Illinois teen. She got kicked off this YMCA swim team, and she's being accused of hate speech. And why is she kicked off the YMCA swim team? And why is she being accused of hate speech? It's because she is protesting naked men being in women's locker rooms at the Springfield YMCA. So she's a teen girl, and she's concerned about men being in women's locker rooms at the YMCA. And she was on Fox News, and because it's 2023, the girl who is now being accused of hate speech, being kicked off the swim team. And did I mention that the man identifies as a transgender woman? Because men identify as transgender woman, because this guy does, these naked men do. This is why the girl not wanting to be around them is wrong here. So if it was a man who didn't identify as a transgender woman, she wouldn't be wrong. But because he identifies as a transgender woman, there's nothing wrong there. So the 16-year-old Abigail Wheeler tried talking to her coach about this and to the YMCA CEO about her concerns. Neither one cared, and they told her that she was going to have to deal with it. So Abigail Wheeler and another girl put up signs to let the other female swimmers know that there were naked dudes there wandering around the women's locker room. In case anyone might think that that's weird or inappropriate, they just wanted people to know that, hey, this is going on. So they put up signs in the locker room, which led to, of course, people saying that that was hate speech and blah, 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 and then her being kicked off the swim team. Here she is on Fox and Friends, Abigail Wheeler.
Locker room. Her coach also reportedly accused her of hate speech. Abigail Wheeler, her sister Caitlin Wheeler, and Outkick podcast host Riley Gaines all join me now. Good morning to you all. Abigail, this is a lot for a 16-year-old to go through. So first of all, give us the details here. Tell us what led to you getting kicked off your swim team.
So actually, when I had seen the man in my locker room, I had gone to my head coach, Alex Datura, and talked to him about my concerns. And he told me that the Y had been, they had known about this for a while, and that there was nothing they could do by Illinois state law. And that if I was uncomfortable, I could use the family locker rooms, or I could not change at the facility. And then anyways, so when I voiced my concern several times to my head coach and the CEO of the Y. I was basically told the same thing over and over. So me and one of my co-teammates, actually, we decided we were going to put informative signs up in the women's locker room to let them know, the members know kind of what was going on. And next day when we went to practice, my head coach told our girls team that there were hateful messages put up in the women's locker room that were considered hate speech and disrespectful. I then went to my coach and gladly told him that I was, a part of this, and he said that it was probably not the best option for me to swim with the swim team that night, and that the YMCA staff would follow up with my family.
Abigail.
So there you have it, folks. Abigail Wheeler out of Springfield, Illinois, dealing with all of this. And what did these hateful signs say? Things like, quote, safe sport, quote, women's rights, quote, biological women only. That's what these signs said. And that's it. According to Fox News, Safe Sport is a U.S. nonprofit authorized by Congress that is dedicated to end physical, emotional, and sexual abuse in sports. So that's what Safe Sport is. There's a number of infuriating things about this story. Now, one thing that I wanted to pull this morning were other stories from other YMCAs in the nation that deal with transgender women, men, I don't know what you call them, dudes with penises who think they're women. One transgender man out of Ohio was accused of exposing his female penis to minors. But get this, the judge out of Ohio ruled that she was too fat for the penis to be visible. So headline from the Daily Mail, it says trans woman is cleared of flashing her penis at 3 women using the Ohio YMCA locker rooms after the judge ruled that she's too fat for her genitals to be visible. So that happened in Ohio, folks. Like, legit, that happened in Ohio. Now the guy goes by Rachel. That's his trans name, but his real name is Darren Glines, and he was found not guilty of 3 counts of indecent exposure at the facility in Ohio, Xena, Ohio. So that was one YMCA. Another YMCA out of Washington, there was an elderly woman who took issue with this guy looking at these little girls and helping these little girls change. So she said, quote, I saw a man in a women's bathing suit watching maybe about 4 or 5 little girls pulling down their suits in order to use the toilet. And her name, this elderly woman out of Washington, she said she found that wrong, as normal people would. And then Julie, she said that people told her that she was being hateful. And Julie, this elderly woman, was then banned from the YMCA because it was hateful to point out that this guy was helping these 4 or 5 little girls change because, it wasn't a man. It was a trans woman. I mean, heartbreaking stuff. Very heartbreaking. 309-451-9299. I don't know. Maybe I'm sure that's happening at your local YMCA. So go check it out. I'm sure that there's plenty of trans women in these locker rooms, and this is nothing new. And somebody pointed out here on the text line, they said, I thought the YMCA was a Christian organization. Me too. I don't know what's going on. I'll be back here on the Morning Buzz. You can see me live in the studio, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. I'm there. We'll be back, and I'm going to read some of your buzzes from the buzz line. I like this one. It's so funny. They, Dylan Mulvaney, said that they didn't feel safe in the United States. Newsflash, no one gives a darn about you. I promise no one wants to hurt you. Stop being so full of yourself. These people are nuts. All right, I'm going to be back next. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much. I'm going to get to some of your comments here. Didn't he flee to Peru? I like that. Hiding out in the country's hiding out as one of the country's most hated trans of 2023. You're talking about Dylan Mulvaney. Yes, he went to Peru. He said that he's doing some solo travel and some soul searching, and that's why he fled to Peru. And yeah, that I would love to see what Peru does to gay people. I'm not exactly sure what their laws are, but people other than the United States and the East, like Europe and these other silly countries, besides those few countries in Canada, they don't put up with it. Like, there's people who literally throw gay people off of roofs, okay? And the stands, the Pakistans, the Afghanistans, right? They don't put up with that stuff. So I'd be curious what Peru's like laws surrounding gay marriage are. I highly doubt that they are more progressive than the United States, but I'm not too sure. Um, who gives a rat's ass about their stupid gender? Those people are confused anyway. Great. We don't need those kind of people here anyway. Yeah. See you later. He should have fled to Afghanistan, Iraq, or Saudi Arabia. Yeah. In those countries, he would not make it. Well, Dylan Mulvaney, I believe the politically correct way to say soft stool. I don't know. There's a few comments here. Ray is as crooked as a question mark. Now, another story I'm going to get to here, folks, coming up. There's this MSNBC report where they're they're big mad. This woman on MSNBC is big mad that Joe Biden's staff is letting him go out there and look like a feeble old man. So they're blaming Joe Biden's staff for allowing him to go out there and for these visuals to be created. And as MSNBC, they're not mad over the fact that he is a feeble old man. And that he is our president and that it's an embarrassment. They're not mad about that. They're mad that the staff is not being more apt to keep him out of the public eye. So Christopher Wray also seemed to confirm that Joe Biden is under criminal investigation by the U.S. Attorney David Weiss for these Ukrainian bribes. But then he abruptly backpedals in this exchange. Here we go. I'm going to play it here for you.
Did Joe Biden take payments from Burisma or any other foreign companies as vice president, president, or private citizen Biden?
As you may know, there is an ongoing investigation being led by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, Mr. Weiss, appointed by President Trump in the last administration, that our Baltimore field office is working with, and I would refer you to him as to what, if anything, can be shared.
So the president is under investigation.
I'm not going to confirm or speak to who is or isn't under investigation for what. I'm simply going to tell you.
So he's not under investigation?
I didn't say that either. By long-standing department policy and practice, I'm not going to be confirming or denying who is or isn't under investigation.
So there you have it, folks. Christopher Wray backpedaling there in regards to, hey, is Joe Biden under a criminal investigation? So there was this whole thing with Christopher Wray being questioned by the House Judiciary Committee. And there were a lot of things that came out of this. He said that he wasn't sure if there were undercover agents at January 6th. And then he also said that the FBI did not violate the First Amendment by suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop on social media. He also said that the FBI is absolutely not protecting the Joe Biden family. So there have been a lot of things that came from this House Judiciary Committee. Now, one thing I also want to talk about here coming up in just a bit, Sound of Freedom. $40 million, I think 3 million tickets sold. Tim Ballard was actually praised by the press in 2014. Now he's being smeared as QAnon. So the left-wing news sites such as Rolling Stone, The Washington Post, The Guardian, they've all tried to discredit the film's success by linking it to QAnon conspiracy theories. Now, before the mainstream media decided to bash anti-child trafficking film Sound of Freedom as far-right, QAnon adjacent, blah, 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 they praised the former Homeland Security agent Tim Ballard the protagonist of the film. So there was a CBS Evening News report from 2014 that's resurfaced, in which the outlet described the work of Ballard and his organization, Operation Underground Railroad, praising him for helping law enforcement break up a major sex trafficking ring in Colombia, which has become a destination for tourists looking for sex with boys and girls, little boys, little girls. So I've got the CBS News report here. Coming up in just a bit. I'm going to play that for us. Here we go. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. You can text in at 309-451-9299. Now, let's go back into the Wayback Machine. 2014, a CBS Evening News report has resurfaced in which the outlet described the work of Tim Ballard and his organization, the Underground Railroad, Operation Underground Railroad. And look, the mainstream media, they praised him back in 2014 for helping law enforcement break up this major sex trafficking ring in Colombia, which has become a destination for tourists looking for sex with boys and girls. So they were praising him. Let's take a listen to this report because now we know that the mainstream media has dismissed Tim Ballard and this Sound of Freedom film as QAnon. They're saying that it's a QAnon conspiracy, and they are bashing the anti-child trafficking film. So there's that. Let's take a listen to the CBS News report from 2014. It's resurfaced. Here we go.
Last weekend, police broke up a major sex trafficking ring in Colombia, which has become a destination for tourists looking for sex with boys and girls. The police had help from an American who went undercover to rescue the children, and Elaine Quijano met him.
Tim Ballard has one mission: to track down child traffickers. 4 months ago, Colombian authorities asked him to investigate a tip that children were being sold there as sex slaves.
Within a half hour, this individual walks up to me, starts asking me what I'm here for, what I want, and within minutes, he says, well, I've got kids as young as 11 years old.
Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent, now heads up Operation Underground Railroad, a nonprofit group that rescues trafficked kids. After that first meeting, the Colombians asked him to put together a sting.
No men will be in here, only women.
Operation Underground Railroad spent months planning, renting this house, rigging it with hidden cameras to document the crime, coordinating with Colombian authorities, and negotiating with the traffickers.
How they find these kids is they lure them in by pretending to have a modeling agency. They target them at 9 or 10 years old. And they were telling us that about by 11, they're ready for sex. They're ready to be sold.
What is that like, looking into that kind of person's eyes?
It's horrifying, and this is why. Because I've got a smile in the face of evil. This is the table where we're going to do the negotiation.
Less than 24 hours after the operatives landed.
News report, and it goes on, and they just praise him in this report. And, you know, something that's deeply disturbing for me is seeing how these people are bashing this anti-child trafficking film, and then also seeing things like, oh, I don't know, the Public Safety Committee in California, they blocked a bill. And I'm just going to say it, why would they do this? It's a bill that would have made human trafficking of a minor a serious felony in the state of California. There were actual trafficking victims there at this committee where they were talking about this bill, and when the bill was blocked, you could hear these trafficking victims. These victims were there. You heard them sobbing as they announced the decision to not make human trafficking a serious felony in the state of California. So you've got that. You've got the legacy media working overtime to try to discredit and smear the movie Sound of Freedom. And then you have the DOJ official website. I talked about this yesterday. They removed certain area or certain things from their website, and they're saying that this isn't an area of concern anymore, essentially by removing these 3 sections. What are the 3 sections, Kat? International sex trafficking of minors. Then we have domestic sex trafficking of minors and child victims of prostitution. So that's all deeply disturbing. Are you paying attention yet? Are you paying attention yet? 309-451-9299. I got to cut to break. Did you guys hear, just to lighten things up a little bit, did you hear that today is actually International Rock Day? Nope, not the music. It's like rocks, like rock climbing. So maybe today is a great day to go out to Starve Rock, climb some rocks, or just rock out. I mean, is there ever a bad day to rock out and, listen to some rock music? No. All right, I'm going to be back with Scott Robbins for Scott's Takes. This is The Morning Buzz. I got the case of the giggles because
I know. Well,
Scott Robbins, I tell him about Joy Behar. We just did the bit about Joy Behar and her saying that Joe Biden is hot for his angry old man outbursts. And I did that bit on the Morning Buzz, Scott Robbins right over there. And Scott's initial reaction was gross.
she's just so that whole.
Gross.
I mean, people, Anna Navarro sticking her head out the window and yelling gay at people in Florida.
She admits that she's a dog, that Ron DeSantis makes her want to act like a dog.
Like a dog, yeah. I mean, the whole show is, I don't know. You know what? If people watch it, they watch it. I don't argue taste of anything ever on anything, but holy smokes. She's got to be Joe's age, if not more, saying she gets turned on when Joe pounds on the podium.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right.
I got the clip. You want it?
Yes, of course I do. Yes, absolutely.
Here we go.
Ugh. Yeah, okay. You got to play that card too while you're at it. Yeah. Throw that one out there. Golly. Ugh. Thought of
turned on by Joe
Behar being turned on. Gross.
A little bit too much TMI.
Yeah, well, it's just other apologists, and there are several in the mainstream media. One of them belongs to the always popular Mika Brzezinski, who is on the Morning Joe show with her husband, Joe Scarborough, the high head guy. She actually defended, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but she actually defended Joe Biden and his mumbling and stumbling and walking the wrong direction and shaking hands with ghosts and everything he's done as being the fault of the people who handle him. Damn it. It's not his fault. It's their fault. You got to listen to this. Here we go. Okay.
Like, I'm just saying, if you are managing a president's schedule and you are managing a president getting on stage and getting off stage and getting on planes and getting off plane, and yes, he's 80, you need to be there for him and you need to make a pathway. And you sure as hell better make sure he doesn't fall on a sandbag. And I blame the staff for that. I mean, these are the things that are going to hurt him. These are things that are going to be played on a loop. Okay, let him do his job. Let him do his speeches. Let him work on policy. Let him do his connections in Congress, unlike any president that we've seen. I don't know, since Clinton. But my God, make sure, your Secret Service, you're his staff, that you were there and you're telling him what's next. And it's not because, don't take this as, oh, he can't even get from one place to another. When you're busy and you're on stage, and we've been on stage, right. I've done speeches and I'm so nervous. I'm doing the speech. I'm trying to get it right. And when it's done, I don't know which way to go. And I'm looking for direction. So do a better job. Because you can't have these video images of the president tripping or the president going the wrong way. It's not going to work in this presidency because his age is going to be a factor. His age is going to be a factor, and it's your job to make sure he gets from one place to another. He can handle the presidency. You have to handle his schedule and where he goes.
Well, and the scheduling.
It makes me mad.
The scheduling is so important. You have with every president, you have different strengths, you have different weaknesses. If
okay, you know what? I can't anymore. I just can't with these people. So it's the handler's fault that Joe shakes hands with ghosts. It's the handler's fault that he turns the wrong way to go off stage. It's the handler's fault he tripped on a sandbag. It's all their fault. It's not his fault. He can handle everything else. He can't handle which way to turn to go off the stage. And you're telling me? Okay. But, you know, and again, we have the second in command, the vice president of the United States. That would be Kamala. And I don't know, Kat, sometimes this AI stuff has happened in a hurry, and it's real hard to wrap your head around exactly what AI is and what the possibilities are of all of this. When I look at AI, I look at it like that's pretty spooky stuff, right?
Yeah.
Other people look at it differently than I do, but already Congress is already grumbling about, we need to put some parameters on this and we need to legislate something and blah, blah, blah. But for those who don't know what AI is, our vice president to the rescue, she gathered the children around in a circle and sat in the middle in one of those little chairs, those little wooden chairs, and explained to you and me and everyone else, like we're in kindergarten, what AI is, because we're just not smart enough to pick it up. Here we go.
And I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process. And I think
Okay. Got it? Everybody got it now? Do you understand?
Okay.
AI is 2 words. Okay. Yeah. It's 2 words. It's artificial intelligence, AI. Do you understand that? Got it, everybody? There'll be a test. We're going to be it's an open book test, but we're going to have one at the end of the presentation.
And it's machine learning.
It's now, the thing is this too. People who ascend to heights in the political world tend to be fairly polished when it comes to speaking, when it comes to delivering speeches, or when it comes to point by point what they would do or are going to try to do if elected, right? They're good at that. They have a skill set that transcends all their other issues. Gavin Newsom, for crying out loud, is an empty suit. You got nothing. I mean, there's nothing to this guy, but he's dashing and he looks good and he presents himself well and all that, and it works. People in America, that's why we don't have any grossly overweight presidents, right? Because they just doesn't look good. No matter how smart the guy is or how good he is, doesn't matter. But her climbing the ladder, which she did, with that skill set is not any more developed than that right there. And we've heard it a million times. This is not just a one-off here. Is remarkable. Remarkable. All right. Feel better now about who's running this country, huh? After all this? Yeah. Feeling good about it?
Joe Biden in his turtle swim trunks and Kamala Harris.
Well, when he pops that shirt off, he's smoking hot too. If he could just yell at kids to get off the beach, it'd be even hotter.
According to Joy Behar.
Yeah, according to Joy Behar. Yeah. All right. Have a good day, Kat. Talk to you later. See you.
Talk to you later. Scott Robbins, Scott's Takes. He's going to be back, folks, tonight at 8 on Cities 92.9. We'll be back talking about Dylan Mulvaney. So Dylan Mulvaney, he went to a country that is definitely not pro LGBTQ, and he fled the United States for some soul searching and for some solo travel. Here's Dylan Mulvaney on TikTok talking about how the United States just isn't safe for him anymore. Here we go. Yeah, people in Peru are not pro LGBTQ. 71% of Peruvians consider LGBTQ people are the most discriminated group in the country, right? And this is the Peruvian Ministry of Justice. So they're discriminated against in that country, and they track all of the anti-LGBTQ violence in the country, and they are trying to develop a national strategy to combat it. LGBTQ people are not treated well in Peru. A lot of the time, people don't agree with it. There was all kinds of statistics about people who are against gay marriage in Peru. So Peruvians are not inclusive, to put it short. To put it in short, and Dylan Mulvaney, he goes there and he tries to flee the United States because it's just not safe for him anymore after this whole Bud Light fiasco. And he said that he needed some much time soul searching, and he complained that he no longer felt safe in the United States. So CNN misgendering, and I'm going to just say that it was a mistake. It's a clear and obvious mistake. We're playing with the media definitions here, the liberal media definitions. There was a guy, his name is Ryan Young, and he misgendered Dylan Mulvaney. Yes, actually misgendered him. Here's what it sounds like. Here we go. Ryan Young, look out. You're on CNN. You gotta, this stuff is important. You gotta do better here.
Course, is the transgender person they were going to sponsor and go along with Bud Light. They didn't like how Bud Light didn't stand by him after all this.
So that Ryan, he actually misgendered this month. Or how can you do this to a little bunny, Ryan? Come on. Uh, Now look, I know that CNN, their PR account is probably going to be and the CNN journalismer, the Ryan Young guy, he's probably going to have to beg for forgiveness and possibly accept a suspension and go off and try to re-educate himself on pronouns and prefer pronoun usage. But let's not be sad that this ridiculousness is going to be over quickly with this tweet and with the firing, possibly suspension of this journalismer. But let's appreciate that it happened. Okay. He actually performed a random act of journalism here and told the truth that and use Dylan Mulvaney's actual pronouns, the truthful pronouns, which are he, him. Now, Mulvaney goes by she, they, and I mean, God, man, come on. Even me, the right wing extremist radio host, knows how to use these proper pronouns. A lot of the time, I use these preferred pronouns as a sense of mockery and sarcasm because I think that's funnier than actually using their truthful pronouns. But you're on CNN, son. Come on. Act like this is important stuff. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. I've got some texts rolling in here. This is a texter. They asked me a question. Hey, Kat, have you heard of any information regarding the AFSCME? So this is the SCME contract. I hear that they're getting close to negotiating this new contract with the state of Illinois. The latest I've heard is 4 years with the increase of 19% over those 4 years. And don't forget that flat check of $1,200 just for the heck of it. So yeah, I have heard of this. This is one of the largest unions, actually, if not the largest. It's the largest public union in the state. And this is why the Amendment 1 is so harmful. Um, Amendment 1 is extremely harmful in that you can just negotiate. And when I say negotiate, not really negotiate, but bully the state into doing whatever you want. We have some of the highest revenues. We have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And the problem is we get taxed so much for these public unions. And this is one of the largest public unions. So I haven't seen anything in the negotiations. We won't know officially what they came to, what kind of contract they decided with Governor J.B. Pritzker and the state. We have no idea until it's actually said and done. Now, there probably are leaks. That would be insane. So I know that they have had salary increases like 53% over the course. We can look at 2005 to 2015. They had a salary increase of, I think, near 53% over the course of those 2 years. So, and then compare that to the average Illinoisan, the person with not in this public union, the union where it's all state workers. They're all government workers. So they're negotiating their contract right now. And really what we're going to have to try to find out is how much it's going to cost the taxpayer in the end of it, or by the end of this negotiation. Really, there is no such thing as a negotiation because Amendment 1 gives them the ability to ask for whatever they want and they have to give it to them. Like there is no negotiations because Amendment 1 enshrines in our Illinois Constitution that they can have whatever they want. 309-451-9299. You can always text me, ask some questions. Here's a text. Nothing that Biden's early on has is early onset. The kid sniffer is 80. He has full-blown old Alzheimer's, old timers that some call Alzheimer's. So if you were in your 50s, 60s, maybe that would be early onset, but not at his advanced age. He's an old fart. Yes, I was talking about how Joe Biden, MSNBC, they were trying to backpedal and say like, oh, it's not Joe Biden's fault. It's his staffers' fault. How could his staffers let him out of his little bubble and let him out there to, make a fool of himself? It's really his staffers' fault. Yes, that is what MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski, I don't know how to say her name, but she scolds his staffers for not doing a better job of keeping him from tripping, from keeping him from stumbling, bumbling, fumbling. And she's big mad at his staffers. Let's take a listen to that. Here we go.
If you are managing a president's schedule and you are managing a president getting on stage and getting off stage and getting on planes and getting off plane, and yes, he's 80. You need to be there for him and you need to make a pathway. And you sure as hell better make sure he doesn't fall on a sandbag. And I blame the staff for that. I mean, these are the things that are going to.
So she is actually blaming the staff for letting Joe Biden do Joe Biden things. Unlike Mika and Joe Biden himself, I'm not going to berate his staff, though I will agree that the person who allowed the president to go out there shirtless, take his shirt off, and wear swim trunks with little tiny turtles on them, whoever signed off on that and let him go out there, knowing full well that his opponent on the Democrat side of things RFK Jr. looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That guy should probably be relieved of his duties. And I'm curious what this Mika woman on the Morning Joe thinks about Joey when he's supposed to meet with world leaders like the King of England, right? Or like, like what is he supposed to do? Bring some sort of nurse or intern with him to help him walk up to, meeting the King of England or whatever? Like the whole world would be laughing at us, and not to mention it would break protocol. The guy has to function on his own. 309-451-9299. You can text in. I do want to shift gears here. Let's talk about this. Christopher Wray seems to confirm Wisconsin Representative Tom Tiffany. Tom Tiffany had asked, hey, is Joe Biden under some sort of criminal investigation? And this investigation is supposed to be taking place with the guy who's supposed to be performing the investigation. It's U.S. Attorney David Weiss for these Ukrainian bribes. So Joe Biden taking bribes from Ukrainians. The total I've seen so far is $10 million, but he admits to it, Christopher Wray, the FBI director, but then he abruptly backpedals. Let's take a listen here to Christopher Wray and what he says about Joe Biden being under criminal investigation.
Did Joe Biden take payments from Burisma or any other foreign companies as vice president, president, or private citizen Biden?
As you may know, there is an ongoing investigation being led by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, Mr. Weiss, appointed by President Trump in the last administration, that our Baltimore field office is working with, and I would refer you to him as to what, if anything, can be shared.
So the president is under investigation.
I'm not going to confirm or speak to who is or isn't under investigation for what. I'm simply going to tell you.
So he's not under investigation?
I didn't say that either. By longstanding department policy and practice, I'm not going to be confirming or denying who is or isn't under investigation.
Wow. Okay, so there you have it, folks. Christopher Wray. Is he under investigation? Is he not under investigation? And there are a lot of things that came out of that House Judiciary committee meeting where he was giving testimony before Congress. There were quite a few things he said. So Christopher Wray also said that the FBI was absolutely not protecting the Biden family. He also said things like the FBI was not censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story, and that's not a violation of the First Amendment. Christopher Wray tells Congress the FBI is absolutely not protecting the Biden family. We had Matt Gaetz confronting Christopher Wray, suggesting that the FBI was protecting the Bidens. Wray angrily denied the allegation. Now, Matt Gaetz, what he did in this committee, he referred to this WhatsApp message that was sent by Hunter Biden to the CEFC, Chinese energy executive. Now, this is a Chinese oligarch, and he sent this message in 2017, and the message referred to Joe Biden in this attempt to try to pressure Zhao. His name is Henry Zhao, the Chinese oligarch, into making some sort of financial payment. So here's what the WhatsApp message said. It said, I'm sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like this resolved now before it gets out of hand. And now means tonight. And Z, so that's Henry Zhao, right? If I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge that you will regret not following my direction. I'm sitting here waiting for a call with my father. So he basically used the presidency in this WhatsApp message to bully this guy into giving him some sort of payment. All really shady. The FBI director said he's not protecting the Biden family. We also have the FBI director saying that there were no undercover agents on January 6th. Well, he says that he's not sure. So which is it, Christopher Wray? Is Joe Biden under criminal investigation or is he not? Was there undercover agents at January 6th, or was there not? You would think you would know these things being the FBI director, but Christopher Wray here, he said that he's not sure if there were any other undercover agents at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th when he was questioned about the matter. Now, he was under questioning from Andy Biggs, and Wray said, quote, "I'm not sure if there were undercover agents on the scene." How do you not know? Like, how do you not know? And I think this is interesting, especially because now we're hearing that Ray Epps is being criminally charged with some things regarding January 6th after 2.5 years. So now Ray Epps has this lawsuit against Fox News for defamation, and he says in this lawsuit that he's being criminally charged by the DOJ. Now, the details of the civil complaint against Fox News reveals that he is being criminally charged by the DOJ almost 3 years after the fact. So this is kind of bizarro. May 2023, the Department of Justice notified Epps that it would seek to charge him criminally for events that happened on January 6th. This is 3 years after the fact. Although we have tapes of Ray Epps out there saying, "Go into the Capitol, blah, blah, blah," and like clearly very much trying to incite people to go inside of the Capitol. Ray Epps admits, quote, "Will go inside the Capitol," but now he claims in this lawsuit that he was not trying to, or that he was not trying to fit in with the Trump people. So Fox News is being sued for defamation because they said that he said these things on tape, like go into the Capitol, and that he was trying to fit in with the Trump people. The lawsuit said that Fox presented Epps as a federal agent to be a scapegoat during the media coverage. So he's trying to say that Fox News defamed him by saying that he was some sort of federal agent during the coverage of this event. Rumors spread from the network that Epps was an undercover FBI agent and was responsible for the mob that violently broke out into the Capitol. So yeah, there's that lawsuit. So apparently he's being charged now. A bunch of question marks for me. I don't know. And FBI director, I think he's got a lot of question marks because he won't even come out on the record and say if there were undercover agents at January 6th, or if there weren't. He says he's not sure. And he also says he's not sure if Joe Biden is being criminally investigated. I think it would be easier to talk about what Christopher Wray does know and is willing to talk about, because he's just is backpedaling. All right. I am going to be back here on the Morning Buzz. There's a story about the Sound of Freedom. So back in 2014, there was a news report done by the Sound of Freedom, or by CBS, about Tim Ballard. And they described Tim Ballard's work as in a positive way. So now fast forward to 2023. Now they're trying to dismiss the movie Sound of Freedom, which is based off of the true story about a former Homeland Security agent. He's the protagonist in the film saving children from a sex trafficking ring in Colombia. Now they're against him. So we're going to be talking about that here on the Morning Buzz next. Here we go. So previously on the Morning Buzz, I was talking about MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski and how she lashed out at the Joe Biden handlers for not handling Biden in a way that doesn't make him look like a confused, senile old fart. Now, her scolding apparently didn't make it to the NATO conference. It didn't. There was a NATO conference where Joe Biden proceeded to confuse the warring countries for each other and their leaders for each other in those warring countries, Russia and Ukraine. Um, so here it is. Joe Biden confusing this. You may not know this, but Ukraine and Russia, they're at war, and it's Zelensky versus Putin. And somewhere between this makes for good content and golly, maybe this guy Zelensky is not a great guy. America has given Ukraine a ton of money without any strings attached. There has been a ton of money funneled to Ukraine, and also weapons of war crimes, or these cluster bombs. So here's Joe Biden and him just really, I mean, this is bad. He's flipping up here. Here's Joe Biden at the NATO conference. Here we go.
In the meantime, Vladimir and I shouldn't be so familiar. Mr. Zelensky and I.
So there he's talking about he was saying Volodymyr or Volodymyr is Zelensky's name, which is very close to Vladimir Putin. And I'm going to be a charitable person and say that. But he didn't confuse Zelensky with Vladimir Putin. I mean, he was calling Russia Ukraine, and he was confusing all kinds of words. He did this multiple times at the NATO conference. And I mean, it was bad. It was really bad. And in the past, he's confused Russia with Iraq, actually. Here's the clip. Let's take a listen. Here we go. So he says that Vladimir Putin is clearly losing the war in Iraq. The guy's brain is complete mush. 309-451-9299. You can always text in. I do want to get to this. CNN committing the unforgivable sin, and they misgendered Dylan Mulvaney multiple times on air. I'm going to get to that here a little bit later. But first, Sound of Freedom. There have been a lot of people who have called this a QAnon film. I've watched it. It's an anti-child trafficking film. It's called Sound of Freedom. And there are plenty of people in the mainstream media saying that this is far-right, QAnon, conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. But what's funny is that, there was a 2014 CBS report done. And this is a report where they praised Tim Ballard. So Tim Ballard is the former Homeland Security guy, and he left the United States, and he left that position as a Homeland Security agent to run his own organization called the Operation Underground Railroad. And this is a 2014 report of them talking about Tim Ballard, and they were praising him in 2014. And then all of a sudden the tone changed. Here we go.
American who went undercover to rescue the children, and Elaine Quijano met him.
Tim Ballard has one mission: to track down child traffickers. 4 months ago, Colombian authorities asked him to investigate a tip that children were being sold there as sex slaves.
Within a half hour, this individual walks up to me, starts asking me what I'm here for, what I want, and within minutes, he says, well, I've got kids as young as 11 years old.
Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent, now heads up Operation Underground Railroad, a nonprofit group that rescues trafficked kids. After that first meeting, the Colombians asked him to put together a sting.
No men will be in here, only women.
Operation Underground Railroad spent months planning, renting this house, rigging it with hidden cameras to document the crime, coordinating with Colombian authorities, and negotiating with the traffickers.
How they find these kids is they lure them in by pretending to have a modeling agency. They target them at 9 or 10 years old. And they were telling us that about by 11, they're ready for sex. They're ready to be sold.
What is that like, looking into that kind of person's eyes?
It's horrifying, and this is why. Because I've got a smile in the face of evil. This is the table where we're going to do the negotiation.
Less than 24 hours after the operatives landed, the suspected traffickers arrived on the island, and the final deal with the undercover team began.
So the report goes on, and point is that they were praising Tim Ballard in 2014, but then all of a sudden their tune changed, and now they've been mocking the movie that is based off of a true story, Tim Ballard's story of how he broke up a major sex trafficking ring in Colombia, in which people like tourists, they were going there looking for sex with boys and girls. And now they've called it like QAnon, the Washington Post, the Guardian. They've tried to discredit the film and its success. I think it's like over 3 million tickets sold, $40 million made. The left-wing news sites, Rolling Stone, Washington Post, the Guardian, they're linking it with QAnon conspiracies. And, you know, I was looking at this. It's a committee in California. It's called Public Safety Committee. And their General Assembly had a bill, and they actually blocked a bill that would have made it a serious felony in California to traffic a minor. And they blocked that bill, Democrats did, and there were trafficking victims at this committee meeting where they blocked this bill, and you could hear these victims sobbing as they announced the decision to block this bill where it made human trafficking a serious felony. Now, this amidst the DOJ child sex trafficking webpage, they removed a few sections from the webpage right before this movie was released, The Sound of Freedom. And the 3 sections that were released, I will just name them off here for you. One of them being international sex trafficking of minors, domestic sex trafficking of minors, and child victims of prostitution. They're deeming this of areas that are not of concern anymore by removing it from their criminal division website, the DOJ website. Then you've got the media working overtime to discredit the film. Are you paying attention yet? And I like what he says here. Jim Caviezel, in this interview with Charlie Kirk, he talks about how this is an 8-legged like octopus, that there are a lot of problems with child sex trafficking. And he says that it's not just the trafficking that's the issue. There's the pornography, there's the getting kids to want to become social media influencers and normalizing shows like this. So this is a new Disney-backed show. And the problem with this show is that it's on Hulu, and I'm pretty sure that it's called Freeform, and it's Disney-backed, it's on Hulu, and it's about a girl who inherits a human-sacrificing, blood-drinking cult with the all-eye-seeing logo, and this is of great concern. Don't know, these people in Hollywood, they have way too much time on their hands. Let's take a listen here. Here
It's
we go.
morning again. The sun is shining. The goats are screaming. And I'm still here despite the fact that last night I witnessed someone get ritualistically murdered by my dad's cult that I just inherited.
Oh, here we go.
What the? I'm Petey. I had it all. Mother!
Here.
What's this?
It's a message from your father.
It's me, your father. The community of New Utopia is all yours.
I just needed to figure out my place in my dead dad's weird town. I'm walking here.
The great daughter! She's arrived!
You guys get the gist. You guys can go see the trailer yourself. I'm live in studio, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Yeah. So when I say, and people are like, Kat, you're crazy. No, because I think you're crazy for not seeing this for what it is. When I say demons prowl the streets of Hollywood, it's because they do. Speaking of Hollywood, another news story just in. So at midnight last night, hundreds of thousands of actors got word to go on strike after negotiations with the studios were not successful. So Hollywood actors now joined the writers on a picket line. Writers Guild of America have been on strike for over 2 months. So there's Hollywood actors who are joining this strike against Hollywood. Good riddance. I mean, honestly, we're not missing anything here. No, nothing of value is being lost. No value will be lost here. These Hollywood actors not being on film, these writers, like I just played for you a film about a girl who inherits a human sacrificing blood drinking cult. That's weird. Um, Now they're all on strike. Now this hasn't happened. This marks the first time both writers and actors are on strike simultaneously since 1960. The strike could devastate the film and television industry, especially in major production hubs like Atlanta, London, New York, and Toronto. The question, however, is if the nation has any real need for a storytelling machine that has beclouded itself with flops, failures, and these stupid ideas like the one that I just played for you. This, I forget what it's called, Freeform or something like that. Like, you suck at writing. This is terrible. And I don't see any value in a film that promotes blood drinking cults. It's bizarre. And nobody wants to see that. I'm just going to be honest. Normal people think that's weird. So I don't think that there would be any kind of value lost if these people never got to the negotiating table and got what they wanted. I would love to see the film industry just kind of collapse. That'd be great. I don't think they produce anything all that great. I think these independent films like Sound of Freedom, those are the future. 309-451-9299. I'll be back. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you are watching, go ahead, smash that like button. Smash it, smash it, smash it. We are going to be talking a little bit about this Springfield story out of Springfield, Illinois. This girl, she was concerned about men being in the women's locker room at this YMCA in Springfield. And because it's 2023, the girl is now being accused of hate speech, and she was kicked from her swim team because she took issue with men changing in front of her in a women's locker room. Did I mention the man identified as a trans woman? The men who identify as transgender women, hence, this is why the girl not wanting to be around them is wrong, because they identify as transgender women. Now, if a regular man were to go in there and didn't identify as a trans woman, she wouldn't be ridiculed of hate speech or anything like this. But her name is Abigail Wheeler. And she tried talking to the coach and the YMCA CEO about her concerns. Neither of one of them gave a crap. And they told her, you're just going to have to deal with it. So Wheeler and this other girl, they put up signs to let the other female swimmers know that there may be naked chicks with danglings there wandering around in the locker room. So she was on Fox News, Abigail was. And she talked about the hateful signs. Now, what did these hateful signs say? They said things like women's rights, biological women only, safe sport. Safe Sport is actually a U.S. nonprofit authorized by Congress that is dedicated to end physical, emotional, and sexual abuse in sports. So this is a nonprofit organization. This is sexual abuse. What's going on with this little girl? She's 16 and she goes into a bathroom and she's, there's indecent exposure there. So speaking of this, there are a few examples of YMCAs allowing transgender men, transgender women, I don't know what you call them, transgender guys who have male genitalia and pretend that they're women. There's multiple stories of this throughout the nation. One being in Ohio, where this woman was cleared of flashing, like, of all charges, wasn't charged for it, after flashing his penis at 3 women under the guise of him being a woman in Ohio at a Ohio YMCA. Now, the judge ruled that this person was too fat for her genitals to be visible. So that happened in Ohio. Then there's another story coming to you live from the Morning Buzz studio. Another story. Her name is Julie Jaman, and she is an elderly woman, and she was in a YMCA, Washington, Seattle. Now, she spotted a dude helping little girls change. Big issue. She says, quote, I saw the man in a woman's bathing suit watching maybe 4 or 5 little girls pulling down their suits in order to use the toilet. Julie found that to be wrong, like most people would find that. And Julie was told that she was being hateful because she pointed out that this was wrong. Turns out this guy was a man, or wasn't a man. He's a trans woman. Like I said, if you're a trans woman, then I guess it's okay. If a man were to go in there and didn't identify as a trans woman, it wouldn't be okay. But Julie, this elderly woman, was then banned from the YMCA. Now, the most heartbreaking thing here is this story out of California, and I'm going to get to that here in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to So we're going to talk about this California girl, and this is a truly heartbreaking story. This girl, she goes to the city council meeting, and she's begging these adults to help and stand up for their daughters, their women, the sisters, the granddaughters. And this is a quote from this California girl who was at the city council meeting. I'm assuming all of you either have a wife, a sister, daughters, granddaughters, or you're a woman yourself. Could you knowingly send an underage girl into a room where there was a naked man and say she was not in danger, that she was safe, or more importantly, that this was right? So I don't know if you've heard, there's a presidential race coming up, and Joe Biden has made it clear that the most important thing in the Democrat Party platform is that we have to make sure boys feel comfortable in girls' locker rooms as they dominate girls in women's sports. One side of the argument will say that, hey, this is a teenager girl and she feels uncomfortable getting undressed in a room where you have male genitalia, but then, or where they're also getting undressed. And then the other side of the argument will say, well, the feelings of the people who have the male genitalia take precedence over the teenage girl. Don't vote for anyone who supports either side of this argument. JB, we know, supports all of this stuff. We are going to be back discussing some things surrounding that story. Plus, did you hear Illinois sports bettors wagered $822 million this May? That's more than any other state except New York. So New York is a bit higher. So traditionally, May is kind of a slow month for sports betting. But we took 7.5% more bets and pocketed 40% more revenue than they did in May of 2022. So the taxes from all of this, we're looking at $14 million. Whoa! I think we have a sports betting problem here in the state of Illinois. So we wagered $822 million in May. That's more than any other state in comparison, or that other than New York. So New York has higher sports wagers, sports bettors wagers made. But May is actually traditionally a slow month for sports betting, I guess. But the Illinois sports books took in 7.5% more bets and pocketed 40% more revenue than they did in May of 2022. The taxes from the Illinois sports betting amounted to $14.4 million. That's up 32% from May of 2022. That's insane. That's crazy. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. 309-451-9299. You can also text that number. I'm live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Do you think we have a problem with sports betting in the state? If we're number 2, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're racing towards the bottom here. I don't know if that's anything we want to tout. It's not exactly something that you should be proud of. So I do want to get to this story here in Illinois. a teenage girl has expressed concern about having to change in front of a man at a Springfield YMCA locker room. So her name is Abigail Wheeler, and she tried talking with the coach and the YMCA CEO about her concerns. Now, neither one of them cared. Now, it's 2023, so what happened to the girl after she expressed that she was upset that she had to change in front of a man with male genitalia? Well, she was accused of hate speech, and then she was kicked off of her swim team. And did I mention that this man identified as a transgender woman? So the men who identify as a transgender woman, because of that, I identify as a trans woman, that's okay. And this teenage girl not wanting to be around a naked man is she's in the wrong here, because this is what bothers me about the whole thing. If a man were to go in there and not identify as a transgender woman, then this would be seen as wrong. Okay, you don't go into a girl's bathroom, and you don't go into a girl's locker room if you're a man. But because you say that you're a transgender woman, oh, it's all right, it's fine. Now, what she did after she confronted the YMCA CEO and the coach, what she did, she said, after they said, deal with it, they didn't care, she made up some posters. And she said that she wanted to make up these posters to let the other female swimmers know that there could be some naked dudes running around pretending to be women. And this is Abigail Wheeler on Fox News yesterday. A story out of Springfield, Illinois. And I'm going to get to a lot of national, across the nation YMCAs with the same locker room policy. Here we go.
Also reportedly accused her of hate speech. Abigail Wheeler, her sister Caitlin Wheeler, and Outkick podcast host Riley Gaines all join me now. Good morning to you all. Abigail, this
So she goes on.
is a lot for a 16-year-old.
One thing that I want to say here before I play the rest of this clip is that the communications director of the YMCA has said that they did not kick her from the swim team, and they are denying her story entirely. So here we go.
To go through. So first of all, give us the details here. Tell us what led to you getting kicked off your swim team.
So, actually, when I had seen the man in my locker room, I had gone to my head coach, Alex Datura, and talked to him about my concerns. And he told me that the Y had been, they had known about this for a while, and that there was nothing they could do by Illinois state law. And that if I was uncomfortable, I could use the family locker rooms, or I could not change at the facility. And then, anyways, so when I voiced my concern several times to my head coach and the CEO of the Y, I was basically told the same thing over and over. So me and one of my co-teammates, actually, we decided we were going to put informative signs up in the women's locker room to let them know, the members know kind of what was going on. And next day when we went to practice, my head coach told our girls team that there were hateful messages put up in the women's locker room that were considered hate speech and disrespectful. I then went to my coach and gladly told him that I was, a part of this, and he said that it was probably not the best option for me to swim with the swim team that night.
Wow. So there's her story, folks, Abigail Wheeler. Now, I told you that there were a couple of other stories. One out of Ohio. So I don't know if there's a trend here, YMCAs. I don't know what's going on, but there is a trend where these YMCAs, they must all have the same locker room policy or something, because one transgender man was accused of exposing his female penis to minors. And get this, it went all the way to court because the the girls, they sued him and or essentially said, hey, this was indecent exposure. But the judge ruled that this transgender man was way too fat for the penis to be visible. So the headline from the Daily Mail just this past year or so, trans woman is cleared of flashing her penis at 3 women using an Ohio YMCA locker room after the judge ruled she's too fat for her genitals to be visible. So that happened in Ohio. So we have men exposing themselves to women in these locker rooms, and then judges saying, oh, no, it's fine because this guy's too fat. What? Then there's another case, another YMCA in Washington. There was this old woman, and she was just kind of minding her own business. And then all of a sudden, she spots this dude trying to help the girls change in the locker room. So she says that a man in a woman's bathing suit was watching about 5-year-old girls, 4 or 5 little girls pulling down their swimsuits to try to use the bathroom. Now she said that that's wrong. That this guy was trying to help them take down their underwear or their bathing suits. So sick. And she said, hey, that's wrong. Most people would find that wrong. But then get this, she was banned from the YMCA in Washington for saying, hey, that's wrong. Heartbreaking. There's a presidential election coming up, folks. I don't know if you knew this, but Joe Biden has made it clear that the Democrat Party's platform is to make sure boys feel comfortable in girls' locker rooms as they dominate girls in sports. That's their whole platform. That's what they care about. That's their number one thing. One side of the argument says, the teenage girl who feels uncomfortable getting undressed in a room where people who have their male genitalia out and who are also getting undressed, yeah, we're going to side with them. The other side argues that the feelings of the people who have the male genitalia take precedence over the teenage girl. Don't vote for anybody who supports the other side of that argument, folks. 309-451-9299. I'll be back on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. You can text in. You can also see me live in the studio. Tom Holland, he is leaving Hollywood because some of these people realize that Hollywood is a cabal of soulless narcissists. Spider-Man actor Tom Holland said that, and others, I mean, it's not just Tom, he said that they're not into the Hollywood lifestyle. So I've got that story here next. So,
the governor will kick off the international trip by attending the Goodwood Festival of Speed to discuss Illinois' commitment to electric vehicle manufacturing.
Yeah, I don't know why she didn't call the cops either. With this kind of stuff, you have to call the cops. Now she went to her coach, she got kicked from the swim team and things like that. I'm sure maybe the cops, I would like to think that the cops would do something, but also not. Because what the cops probably, and what I'd imagine people will say, cops would say, in these Democrat run areas, right? There's a lot of, I'm not going to go out and say that there's not good cops anymore, but a lot of Democrat run areas, like, let's think about this logically. A lot of Democrat run areas probably don't have good cops in them anymore because they're treated so badly. I mean, anybody in their right mind is probably going to leave. Now, if she were to take this out to the cops, Abigail Wheeler, most likely she would be met with, well, why don't you just change in the handicap stall or like the all family bathroom? And like, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just go to a different YMCA? That's what this is all about. It's like putting the blame on the victim. And that's really disgusting for law enforcement to do that. I'm not saying that happened. However, I've seen this play out before, and most likely that's what would have happened if she would have went to the police. I think that the best way to do this is to get the media, not mainstream, right? To get media outlets, organizations to pick stories up like this and to make it known to people that this is what's going on. So that way more people will stand up because of her story. Because of her story, I'm hoping that people here in Bloomington Normal, if you use the YMCA in Bloomington Normal, you'll be more apt and more aware of things like this happening. And hopefully she starts to gain more people on her side to stand up against this with to stand up with her. Our Democrat run Normal has amazing cops. Yeah, I'm not saying all Democrat cities. I'm just saying like the likelihood that a Springfield cop is going to give a darn about Abigail Wheeler feeling violated is probably highly unlikely. I mean, I'm hoping to talk with somebody here about some human trafficking incidences. There's brothels, there's things that are being run right here in Bloomington Normal. And police officers have said, we can't do anything. These women are of age, blah, blah, blah. I've found that in more Democrat run cities, they will turn a blind eye to some of this nonsense. One, because they're probably scared to be met with some sort of crazy out on the street. And leftists are insane. Like San Francisco is one that I think of all the time. These homeless people, they don't stop the homelessness and they don't say like, hey, get out of here. You can't do this anymore because they're scared of them. Chicago, same thing. But I don't know. I would hope that she would go to the cops because people don't realize that that's a crime, exposing yourself because we've normalized maybe sexuality so much or normalized sexual deviancy so much. I don't know. 309-451-9299. You can text in and be a part of the show. Now, Tom Holland, he has come out and has said some things, which is kind of amazing, actually. And this is the pendulum swinging. Tom Holland, who is the Spider-Man actor, I actually really like him in these movies, the Spider-Man movies. He has said, and I quote, he is keen to focus on what makes him happy, which is my family, it's my friends, it's my carpentry, it's my golf, and the charity that my mom runs. So he is not too happy with the Hollywood lifestyle. And this is really cool to see actors, actresses stepping out and saying, you know what? Nah, I'm not about this, because some of these people are starting to realize Hollywood is a cabal of soulless narcissists. And this comes amidst these actors joining a lot of these writers on strike. So, I mean, I'm okay if they stay on strike forever and nothing is ever written and nothing is ever produced. I'd like these independent films. I like the idea of independent films rising, but Hollywood actors are joining writers on a strike. Now, this is the first time both writers from like this guild, I forget what it's called, the Writers Guild of America. This is the first time they'll both be on strike together since the 1960s. So this is an interesting story. I'm excited to see where it goes. It could mean that Hollywood is dismantled. I would hope that the pendulum swings and that's what we start to see is new independent films like The Sound of Freedom get more popular and popular. All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Morning Buzz. You can catch me tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Glenn Beck is up after me, then Dan Bongino, Sean Hannity, and Mark Levin. You won't want to miss this awesome lineup on Cities 92.9. Bye-bye. Love you.